Hello and welcome to Imp's WWE Adventures podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Help the network out by leaving us a 5-star review, give a donation directly through Red Circle, and become one of the amazing community by joining the Social Suplex Discord, link is in the description. Listen to the other top-notch shows here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network: One Nation Radio, Keeping It Strong Style, All Things Elite, Wrestling Articus Things, Trish and Sarah, Tunnel Talk, and Sam Brown's AEW Match Guide. My name is Maher, aka Imp, and this is your quick look back at the WWE week that was. 30 minutes is going to be pretty hard to hit on the regular, given the new 2-hour slots where these feel like, if this week's anything to go by, these next few months are going to be the shortest running length of these episodes. I have so little to say, especially on weeks like this. Very, very little. But let's jump on over to Greenville, South Carolina for the 2 title matches and a lovely Roman Reigns.
Referee Jessica Carr didn't see it, distracted on the other side, and a Samoan spike by Solo for the win.
The show where they realised that they might need some friends. Jimmy opened the show to a damn strong reaction, hyping his return main event, when out came big old Roman. 5 minutes later his entrance finished and we got to hear his words. He means it when they say they're the greatest. Happy to see the characters staying cocky and true. Always that danger of newly turned babyface turning to the crowd like they're Keanu Reeves now going, no, you're the greatest. Jimmy wanted his brother to help them fight the Bloodline, but Roman's not about that yeet. Roman, I'm the only one left that acknowledges you. Setting up, seeing it visually in the main event when Jimmy Uso faced Solo Sikoa. For me, surprisingly alright main event. I say that given this pairing doesn't exactly ignite the wrestling heart. The crowd was loud for it though, so what do I know? They are into these characters. I think that's pretty much what I was saying with Bad Blood. But even in the middle matches where they didn't really get much going in terms of getting excited and ignited. But the crowd were loud, they are into these characters. A decent little display showing Jimmy's fight in his new goody shoes. Nothing crazy, but it did everything needed to set up that next wee little while of telly. In the end, the numbers game worked distraction, but we saw the Bloodline-wise Uso immediately know the play. It was eventually too much though, with a standard-ish finish, but it was nice to see the character beat for the lad. Jimmy Uso climbing high for the splash, Jacob Fatu pushing him down, and Solo Spike, end of. So pretty standard finish, nothing super crazy, but the character beats it was setting up are quite good setups of where they're going to be going with this towards Survivor Series. The Tongan assault after the bell, big pop for Roman, but the numbers are just too much. Going off air with the lads realising they're not going to be able to handle this on their own. That's just the two of them, it's not enough. Fade to black. Obviously there's just another thing where he and Cody was enough, but now suddenly he and Jimmy Uso, not enough. I'm going to need some friends. But it's setting up the rejoining of the original Bloodline, and who the fourth is going to be is a little bit up in the air. I personally would like Cody Rhodes to keep going with his Kevin Owens and Randy Orton arcs, and in exchange the fourth man is Sami Zayn. That would be my thing. But the other part is, because they're building towards Survivor Series, they have got enough time to let the Jey Uso and Sami Zayn as well, both of them just be like, why would I join up with that man? Which was part of the Cody Rhodes angle as well. When he joined up with Roman Reigns, that somewhat ignited Kevin Owens' sparks, which now led to Kevin Owens' heel turn. There's consequences to Roman's actions, and I like seeing them play out in the real world. They've actually thought about it, and they've got the time. Of course, they've got until the Survivor Series deadline, so they need to be all rejoined by then. But because you got Crown Jewel first, it's still only October, so you've got a little bit of time. Because Crown Jewel feels very much... The Kingdom wanted this championship for the Crown Jewel, so they're getting it, then it's up to WWE to make it work. So once again, we're back into that era of the Saudi shows just being a bubble, and whilst it's in that bubble, you can just stop paying attention at all. But with the Vince case, that meant that you could stop paying attention to all of the TV in this period, because any story they were doing just stops whilst they were doing Crown Jewel stuff. There's a lot of stuff being set up on the TV aside from the Crown Jewel. It almost feels like they're doing the Crown Jewel stuff like belligerently, just not really wanting to do it. They'll have one segment talking about it, and they're the only segments that talk about it. Everybody else is still building up their own stories. You know, if you're going to be basically told, no, we want to do this championship, you make it work. It's like, the main problem is trying to add any weight to it is that once the Crown Jewel event is over, you're not going to be seen wearing this belt. You're not going to be sold the importance of it. Cody Rhodes is not going to be wearing a massive, heavy diamond belt around for the entire year. So it's just it's an event in a bubble, and with wrestling titles, it's not just the win; it's holding it afterwards that helps sell the importance of it, and that's not going to happen. It's going to be just like the Greatest Royal Rumble belt, or other the Shane McMahon Greatest Wrestler in the World, whatever it was, all that bollocks. Once it's over, it's not really ever brought up again. Shane McMahon, at least it fed into his character. It wasn't one I was enjoying, but at least like some weight to him winning was actually added. Like it actually did something to the event. But anyway, yes, we live through an era of the Saudi events being in their own little bubble, and it kind of somewhat feels like we're back to that again. It was the mixture of that and then wanting the legends to wrestle. Both of those put together just meant that the events were just... But my main thing with all the shows anyway is, because they are propaganda shows, it's like, if you go in knowing what they are, a better made propaganda show is still a propaganda show. It's just better made so you can actually enjoy the content on it, if you're able to dissonate like that. WWE dissonance is going to come up more than once on this show. So anyway, as you can tell, I don't really have a lot to say about the Roman stuff because for me it's bubbling nicely, but it's introducing character arcs which are going to play out. So I was like, oh yeah, they hinted at this happening. Can't really say much else because that's what they're hinting at. I've thought about it enough of them building a War Games match for Survivor Series. So I thought, yeah, we're bubbling towards it. We're going to eventually get the people going one by one. Yep. Yeah. How they do it is the more, because that's my thing with filmmaking, is it's not what you do. To bring back Banana Mama, it's not what you do, it's the way that you do it. That's what gets results. Especially in like the language of television and film. It really is that type of thing where technically you've seen every story. WWE's not really able to do something like incredibly unique here with bringing all the team back together. But it's all about how they do it. And they've got the time to kind of let it play out a little bit. Maybe different players as well who could come back and help kind of nudge Jay or nudge the fourth man. Like, they've got enough time to slowly nudge it. It's not a crazy... And you got the Crown Jewel event itself in the slap bang in the middle just to suck up time as well. Yeah, so yeah. Not suck off time, Bron Breakker. We'll get to you. Get to you. The United States Championship, LA Knight versus Carmelo Hayes was our opening bout. Cole told us before the bell that Melo was promising to bring back the spinner US title after he won, so okay, he must lose. Get him. Get him, Knight. Stop him. Just enough time to introduce Andrade popping up to hang ringside before the ad break gave Knight and Melo enough time to dance. The challenger's planting his hands to block the BFT from driving his head into the mat was setting us up just the amount of times that Melo was able to dodge Knight's biggest offense. Plenty of reversals as Hayes kept finding ways to slip out of the BFT specifically, leading into a nice sequence with Knight having to come up with a new way to snap the move. In the finish, the champion tricking Melo into flipping out of an attempted German, which positioned him nicely for the BFT. 1, 2, 3. Andrade happily clapping and chatting shit ringside afterwards. I thought, yeah, this is a perfectly fine, respectful face-to-face match. Like, it's perfectly enjoyable. They're telling that story in the match with Carmelo Hayes constantly being able to slip out and find a way. So my favourite thing in that is that the champion finds a way. He comes up with something new. He innovates. On the fly, he improvises. He's able to come up with a new plan because his offence is being sought out, which happens when you're the champion and people start watching your matches and paying attention, is they start to slowly over time be able to figure you out. So you have to improvise, you have to change and innovate. So I really like that idea where he couldn't just hit the BFT. He wasn't able to hit the normal moves and float and then hit the BFT. He had to do something completely new with Carmelo Hayes. So I really like that. It made Carmelo look great as a challenger because he brought it. He forced LA Knight to change up, but LA Knight himself showed he could change up, which again is important for his character as a champion. Yeah, for me that's what you want from a title match teddy bout. It doesn't have to be 5-star craziness. The Women's Tag Team Championship, Belair and Cargill versus Metaphors, Legend and Jackson, calling them the Meta Girls. The NXT challengers got a wee VTR play promo. But on their way to the ring, Kevin Owens interrupted to get his time to run off Cody during their entrance. And we've got that whole heated segment with Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens. Randy Orton getting knocked down. Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens are all going, oh, I'm going to blind. You'll get like blinding anger. I'm going to bleed and get you. But yeah, the tag match still went ahead, but your attention has been dragged off elsewhere. So when the action was happening, all you're thinking about was Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. As in, you're watching the match and you're able to get into it, but because your attention's been elsewhere, you're thinking about that other thing whilst you're watching this. You are not paying full attention to the match. It's not put front and centre as this is an important match. It's a title match. This is a big deal. It wasn't presented like that at all. It tells you yet again that the women's tag team division isn't important after we were just told that on Raw as well. It would be the second consecutive show where the women's tag title stuff has just kind of been positioned and told you that it's just not that important. After the break, they did try with folks at ringside, but your attention's already been redirected. Like, it's too late. It's too late at this point. Additional note, it's crazy that Legend makes Cargill look small. I generally didn't realise she was that much of a beast. Because I've watched her in NXT. When I watch NXT, I kind of feel like quite a few of the women there are a bit smaller. In my head, I was thinking, oh, they're making her look bigger than she is, even though I get the impression that she's big. I didn't realise how dwarfed she made Jade look small. I was just like, oh my god, she's a beast. Emphasise this. Genuinely emphasise this. Jade Cargill's been painted as this just absolutely immaculate superhero. Then Lash Legend can be the opposite of her. She can be just that natural behemoth. It's like, oh my... For me, that's a perfect kind of heel for her to play off of. With time taken away for the main Cody Kevin Owens program, the women here somewhat had to rattle through with what little time they had left. The Meta Girls got their minute to show us their possibility of potential, but any actual potential wasn't to be displayed given how fast we had to get through this. So they got the promo to tell us, like, here we go, we're going to show you what we can do. And then in the match, we got flashes. It's like, oh yeah, they look promising. But then there's just no time to build on any of it. So that they get their little sequences on top. Suddenly the champions then swing in, and then the champions just win because they don't have any time for anything else. Legend kicking Chelsea Green over the announce table was the distraction enough to swing the match away. Belair got the hot tag, 2 quick kicks from Jade, and straight into that assisted German for the win. Kind of left it a little bit disappointed. Because I was like, oh, I wouldn't have minded this getting just like a little bit of time. Because they got some time, but the focus was ripped away from it, and then you're trying to get back into it, and then after the ad break, they didn't have much time to work with at all. So, like, what was actually broadcast on the television, there wasn't anything here to make me care about the Meta Girls, which sucks because I think they're awesome. And pulling the focus away from them tells me they're not that important to begin with. So when they appeared on Monday Night Raw, I kind of felt like, they kind of got the reaction they kind of... When I say they deserved, I mean in terms of like the creative, in terms of what have they done to make me care. Like the video package worked, then they immediately undermined it with the way that the layout of the show was booked. Tried to get this in, but this wasn't enough time for the match. Then on Monday Night Raw, they do something actually interesting, but again, that's like a little background bubble thing. That was a much better way to kind of build up their characters on Monday Night Raw, because this match happened. It's kind of like, but you're fighting back from underneath to make me care because their introduction just wasn't handled well. It's like, if you're going to introduce them like this, don't have Kevin Owens do that. Just have him come out at the end of the match or something. Just have him come out afterwards. Don't have him interrupt. I get the whole point is that he's interrupting. You're meant to boo him because you don't want him to do that. You want to see the women wrestle. But it does have the negative effect that it's this women's tag division again. It's going to get pushed down. And immediately onto the other notes. Nia Jax with a very awkward delivery of her promo. To be fair, the scripted dialogue for this whole segment was very bland and generic, so I don't really blame her entirely, giving a somewhat generic script. The goal was decent, like Nia's insecurity pushing Stratton to cash in on Liv Morgan, which was a setup for Monday Night Raw when we get to it. Liv Morgan and friends coming out set up the surprise Rhea Ripley after the Nia versus Naomi match. This also feeds into Monday Night Raw. A lot of Nick Aldis sorting out backstage. We had matches for Carmelo, Santos Escobar and the Street Profits / DIY tag lads. Also, the show through line of Kevin Owens carried on through backstage, sending Cody home so he didn't get hurt ahead of his Saudi payday, which then leads into KO beating up Randy Pandy in the parking lot in revenge for the kerfuffle earlier. I paused because I very much enjoyed saying Randy Pandy in the parking lot. That felt mouth good. I did enjoy that. But yeah, that's Friday Night SmackDown. I preferred SmackDown this week to Monday Night Raw. The 2 title matches, even though I had critique for the women's one, they at least gave some like stakes to the show. And it felt like we're building into a direction with the different women's champions as well. Now, there is a direction we're going. The Kevin Owens stuff, I feel like is being really well done. It's just that it's got a little while to go somewhere. I obviously would have preferred it to not interfere with the Women's Tag Team Championship, purely because of how badly they were handled on Raw. But there is good stuff here. The Kevin Owens stuff is actually good, and that is actually interesting character, the way that it's building up with Cody Rhodes and the way that Randy Orton's now interacting with it and been drawn in. But it is good stuff. Which I feel like this is a much easier show to talk about just because it's nice and simple. Monday Night Raw. Right. Yes. Monday Night Raw was the B-side to last week's recording in St. Louis, Missouri. The live crowd had seen 4 hours with main event as well. They've already seen like 3 hours. Then they have to sit through this second recording. Yeah, so they were a little bit tired. There's a little bit of crowd sweetening, just put in the audio of a crowd reacting a certain way where they can actively see them not doing that. It's like, it's been a while since we've had that WWE. If you're a newer fan, that was a mainstay. I remember Dolph Ziggler even tweeting about it, where he got an absolutely incredible reaction one night, but that wasn't the story that Vince wanted to tell, so they got the audio completely clipped and completely edited around it so it looked like he got no reaction. It's like, are you trying to build stars or not? It's such a strange era. But anyway, let's jump over to Missouri for Monday Night Raw, I guess part 2 from last week. But unfortunately, we have to talk about something else first that happened on the show. So let's jump on over to Raw.
There it is, that dig. I was
expecting that, and I should have been. This is indeed your house now. Gosh, you really have become frightening. You've become a frightening beast. And what you call me, a secondary champion? Let us not forget, I defeated the most dominating champion in company history. And Gunther, I have already slain a frightening beast.
A promo meant to build focus to the Crown Jewel Championship, but all focus was on one line. The closing sentence from Cody, telling Gunther that he'd already beaten a beast, which got a stronger reaction given it was the second lad to allude to Lesnar. It came across as WWE testing the waters for a potential return. The reason it feels like this is we've seen it before. We know what the ripples look like. This was done many moons ago with Hogan. People just kind of mention his name, that he exists and whatnot. Hell, even with Warrior, with him too, after the heinous stuff that he'd said. Just a mentioning of the name, seeing how people react, like how does the audience kind of take to the idea of just maybe this person existing in this universe again? Little tests like that. Both of those two came back, both Hogan and Warrior. But neither of those two people were named in a sex trafficking lawsuit. You don't test those waters with your audience on that. Some things you do not leave up to your fans. Should we bring back a man not cleared from a sex trafficking lawsuit? That really isn't one of them. Jesus Christ. And the fact that they've even alluded is a major red flag for the company. Sean Mossap got some clarifications like, no, we're not. My immediate thought was, but the waters were tested. It was brought back as a entity that exists within this world. And obviously when you're doing a promo in front of a live crowd, where you script things, you're scripting things for a reaction. Names don't get dropped by accident. Everything is scripted. This isn't Cody Rhodes going off script being like, oh yeah, he did this or that. Oh, it's actively knowing, mentioning the beat will get a reaction because people will think about his match with Brock Lesnar. So they're thinking about Brock Lesnar. When Seth Rollins brings up beating a beast, it's the same thing. They are specifically trying to get a reaction out of you. As part of my review for the recorded segment for Cody Rhodes Roman Reigns, part of why I was praising that recorded segment was because they could deliver lines and write a script that wasn't trying at its main goal to get that reaction from a live crowd. You write your lines differently. You're not dropping things in there going, oh, this might get a reaction, because that's not the kind of delivery you want in a recorded environment like that. However, here, with the Cody Rhodes Gunter segment, it is written that way. It is written to get reactions. It is written in that manner of what could get the crowd to make it like a little noise at the right time so Cody can feed off the right emotion or whatever. So none of this is like an accident. Oh, it's just a coincidence that the story went that way because of course that's what Gunter did. In a world where it is so controlled and scripted, it's not a coincidence. It is written down and scripted by somebody and worked on and given the approval. And the fact they did that, so even though they're saying, oh no, he's still on the list of just no, he's not coming back. The company as well, they spent so much money trying to get Brock Lesnar taken out of the final game for WWE 2K24. Like, if you don't know really much about game development, games look polished on the outside and they look all shiny. It's like, oh, nice to play. On the inside, it's thin elastic band that could have over-tangled with each other in a mess of wires that are just held together by a thin string that could snap at any moment. But no, you put the box around it and you can't tell. You lift up the box and you go, Jesus Christ! That's video games. That's coding. So incredibly difficult. Time had to be put together to make sure they could take him out of the game. So already they've put in a big effort to pull Brock Lesnar out of the current existing universe. So this is purposeful. It was my part of my thing was, it was an immediate read of, they don't want him. That was my immediate take. But it's also the company's interest to look out for the fans' own interest in this kind of way. You do not put something like this on the fans, because then the fans are seen to be people who are approving of a possible person involved in sex trafficking. And when the news was out in public, you protect your own fans from looking like that. You do not put this on the fans. If you put this on the WWE fans, they are so happy just to see stuff that they're going to say yes. They're going to cheer like it's Vince McMahon again. I have no doubt in that. That's why you don't give it to them. Like, how bad does that look when you do that? So don't do it. Just don't do it. Also, in this segment, we got so much piped-in audio. It's very evident the crowd was tired. They'd seen a lot of Monday Night Rawings. They were very tired at this point. We got some piped-in crowd noise, like a lightly cheering and clapping crowd audio, when I can visually see not one person clapping. If you put in an audio without clapping, that would have been alright, but you specifically put in a light little clap and I can see everyone sitting on their hands. I can see it happening. Like, WWE dissonance used to be a weekly occurrence during that taped SmackDown era, but also it feels like such a minor grape under the shadow of the rest of the discussion coming out of this segment. And from WWE's kind of what they're building up point of view, nobody's talking about the Crown Jewel match. So in a way, that line was a bigger mistake as well, in terms of you trying to get the audience invested in why it's important for these characters to go into Crown Jewel and fight for this championship, why it matters. Cody Rhodes and Gunther are both masters at this, but because the line about Brock Lesnar was put in, no attention is on it at all. Absolutely none. It's failed on two fronts. If it failed on the front of, do they want Brock Lesnar? No. Is the focus on the Diamond Championship? No, because it's on Brock Lesnar. Also, the company gets that red flag of, but you dropped a hint about Brock Lesnar existing in your world. So that's another flag. So it was 3 negatives coming out of this. So in a way, I could call it a bad segment. It's just that everything else Gunther and Cody said was generally great. It would have worked if they hadn't dropped the Brock Lesnar line. The attention would have been on it, but they had to. They couldn't help themselves. A very forgettable Monday Night Raw. Definitely felt like the B-side to a taped recording. It definitely felt like it. Very inconsequential. Had some nice character notes building stuff, but also, like, if you didn't watch this show, that is absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. So that was my worry with the Crown Jewel era when it was Vince running it, where they entered their own bubble and you could skip an entire month of programming. Like, it became that bad. It really didn't matter. I was praising Friday Night SmackDown for getting loads of like long-term stories boiling and bubbling, like Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes, and with the Bloodline. That's all got like longer deadlines in mind, and that, for me, that's how you get through this period. You can make them care about the long-term title programs and character arcs. That they did well on SmackDown. Monday Night Raw, for me, nope. Just completely skippable. So Rhea Ripley opened the show with commentary talking about her and Raquel Rodriguez. I still keep forgetting that NXT somewhat exists in WWE canon now. So whenever the Mr. Commentary men refer to relationships from NXT and calling Raquel Rodriguez an old rival, I keep going, oh, that's nice. Because I keep forgetting it's just an ordinary note now, and then whenever it keeps happening, it's like, oh, no, NXT exists. That era of NXT that I, like the end of the era of it, that I was still kind of liking. It's like, oh, yeah, it still exists in this world. Calling out Liv, but instead getting Miss Money in the Bank Tiffany Stratton with a message from Nia. This was our setup for Tiffy's face turn, continuing as Morgan and Rodriguez attacked the two. And that's it, like 8 minutes into the show, and we very quickly shifted to the women's tag title promo video. Like, no time to faff about with the third hour. It does mean, like, no more time wasting, which is like, yeah, I'm good for that. But it also means segments feel a tad rushed. Like this one here felt like it was just starting to get bubbling. It's like, oh, this is like an interesting pair I'd like to see. You get to see them, like, jibber jabber for like a bit, but then so quickly, nope, don't have time. Immediately jumping in. But let's stay with the women. The 2 tags on this show got the most in-ring time committed this week. So first off was the Women's Tag Team Championship, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill versus Damage Control, their second defense in this week's show. After the champions came out, we got an ad break, the tag team main event being set backstage. And then we saw the Mega Girls at ringside from last Friday. At least the attention, distracting stuff stayed within women's tag match worlds. But that's both shows where your attention has been taken away before the match has begun. They seemingly just can't help themselves. This was a critique in the Vince era where they would. This was just how they produced their entire show. Like every time we came back from an ad break, it was jumping all over the place, like very lack of focus. Now, because they've actually thought about the production and what they're actually telling you through the TV language, production people think about it so you don't have to. But that stuff is all there. So when I know they're thinking about it, stuff like this sticks out more. Because this means that you know the effect it's having. You know it's making you not really care about this division. And I'm just like, so why do you keep doing it? I don't understand. I've just immediately thought that, from my mind, they're looking at audience retention after an ad break. And this seems to work. Or they've made themselves believe that it works. So AEW don't do it. It's purely a WWE thing. It just seems to be this thing where they have to, if someone makes an entrance before an ad break, and that being the hook, instead, it's not enough of a hook because they have to come back to something else, which then means the focus has been taken away from the match. And I'm thinking about other things that are going to be happening on the show or have happened. I'm not thinking about this title match anymore. Like, yeah, my attention isn't there. My focus has been on other things, sometimes multiple other things. So obviously, my focus and care isn't all there for the match. To me, it sounds simple. Just don't jump about to other stuff when someone's made an entrance. You can do it before the entrance, that's fine. But also, in terms of TV, like add-ins and lead-ins and stuff, obviously Trish and Sarah go way into more detail than this. Like, I do understand that the hook being, if you stick around, you'll see the match that's going to happen and the person's music plays and out they come. They're like, you're going to see this person wrestle. Isn't that cool? Stick around, guys. Like, I understand that. I understand it. But I just, in terms of like attention jumping about, it just means that these women tag titles, yet again, have been told to me that they're not that important. Because it's perfectly fine to jump and talk about other stuff whilst it's on. The match itself, at first note, God, the talent in that ring. Bianca Belair, Kairi Sane, Io Sky. That is sure one hell of a trio to put around your future star, Jade Cargill. Bianca and Io tagged in together was especially a treat. A lovely pop-up insane elbow from Ye Sky Pirates too. Both teams jabbering with the Mega Girls. The superheroes caught by an EO springboard moonsault, but Sky then herself ate a stiff forearm when she did the jabber to them. The champions not opportunistic baddies, given that they'd just been moonsaulted on and rolled back into the ring, but a KOD to the knocked and wobbled EO for the win anyway. A nice little character thing for the Mega Girls to help establish them and make them care. Just that, the introduction to them just told you that they're not that important. Uphill battle. It didn't need to be, but you've done that. And that naturally rolls me into the main event. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Rhea Ripley and Tiffany Stratton. The bell ringing with 7 minutes till the end of the show. So fair to say I wasn't expecting a worldie of a main event. And this was one of the longer matches on this inconsequential episode as well. Really, just getting us ready to react to Stratton as a goodie. Like, she's not there yet, and her character's baddie notes played into the loss, but it feels like they're doing everything right to get her there. Emphasised front and centre with the two arguing ringside, as in the background we saw Liv get lifted up into the powerbomb position and thrown out of the ring by her partner. Like, I'm always a fan of big and little tag teams like that. Yet again getting the visual riptide and pin attempt on Liv, only for Rodriguez to make the save. The inconsequential nature of this show really perfectly demonstrated as Nia made her surprise interference, attacking for the DQ, taking out Ripley before squashing Liv Morgan, all setting up to try and get Tiffy to cash in her Money in the Bank on the other champion. So seeing that paranoia that was built up on SmackDown, now actively playing out. Dom made the save just in time, but it's fair to say we're going to be getting a lot of this dance with fair regularity through Crown Jewel. It's going to be the major programme. We're going to be seeing this setup quite a lot. Will she cash in on Nia? Teased quite a lot. There's going to be a spot at Crown Jewel, like will she cash in on one of them? We're going to see this tease constantly. And that takes me to the other notes. Without the time to have in-ring dedication, we got quite a few video packages. Also, pretty sure with Bron, the phrase isn't, you've been sucking off your family's legacy for 14 years. I'm pretty certain that's not out the phrase. The overall promo was brilliant. Like, better than any in-ring back and forth would have gotten across this stuff. But that phrasing did make me laugh. Late in the show, Kofi Kingston was the poor chap to get wrecked by the lad. Jey Uso and Xavier Woods making the post-match save. A nice little look between the two as their history became front and centre in that moment. After the ad break, Jimmy was waiting for Jey in his brother's locker room for a quick chinwag. And after another match, that chinwag happened and Jey just told him to piss off. Note 1 is we need help, we need friends. Note 2 was, I can talk to my brother, but there's history. And then we go forth. We've got 2 episodes a week to build this, and you've got like a month or so to get there. We've got time. We also got a sit-down between Bronson Reed and Adam Pearce. They tried to make it look like the two were just sat outside, but it was way too lit and produced to not feel like the usual staged sit-downs. There was nothing natural about this at all. Later, the same thing with Seth Rollins in the locker room, just building towards their match. Alpha Academy came out and straight into my other notes. Then the Raiders returned. The War Raiders, that is. I thought Ivor's injury was like bad, so this was a genuine lovely surprise. Get out of here, Vince nonsense. More bad creative rehab for pretty much that whole generation of NXT talent. Back to their original presentation. Get the Viking out. Dragon Lee got a big fancy promo package with genuinely great production. Would be nice to see that translate into the arena, but yeah, I like this promo package. And finally, R-Truth faced The Miz. Karrion Kross came out. Truth won with an immediate roll-up. The Fantastic lads grabbed R-Truth, chucked him back into the ring. School-crushing finale, and end of segment. So there's just a lot of stuff where, because of the shorter time frame, it feels like we're not letting enough stuff breathe. So it still feels like the amount of stories they had was for the 3-hour show, and now there just isn't enough time to feature everything. But stuff like the video packages and using those to carry things over, that's going to be really vital going forward. And maybe these 2 weeks, or maybe just this build to Crown Jewel is going to be a little bit rough, and maybe November will be a bit better. but we're just in a weird period where each week we've seemingly got 3 hours worth of storylines to try and carry through, but we're only doing it in a 2 hour period. We've got 3 hours worth of talent, but we've only got 2 hours to use. It's going to be a bit of a rough little period. Anyway, that brings me to the end of the review. One of the shorter ones, gonna be honest. Probably gonna get quite a few under 30 minutes, as not only these 2 hours, but the stuff that is so condensed, there's just not a lot to talk about. And especially when you're building towards Crown Jewel, where seemingly they're not doing a very good job of making us care. The thing I talked most about was like one line from a promo where they absolutely failed to say you on the show because something else took centre stage. So, yeah. The place they're doing the best with is the Nia Jax, Liv Morgan, Tiffany Stratton. Like that little bubble there, that feels like that's where they're doing the best. But again, it's stuff they're doing the best like post Crown Jewel. The Tiffany Stratton element is there. Yeah, just how do you make us care about a match full of baddies? Well, you give Tiffany Stratton in there, and that'll be like the kind of like thing to cheer. Anyway, so with that, I say thank you for listening, liking, engaging in any form, any manner. Always appreciated, never taken for granted. Buy our merch, Dickie's amazing, over at choppedtees.com. With no postage to most places in terms of delivery. So it just means that you're paying less overall for the even better quality product. This ain't no quick or come off in the wash type of shit. Like, no. High quality. High quality. Really proud of what Dickie has made. With that, I'll be back this time next week to talk about Raw and SmackDown. Hopefully it's less inconsequential. We'll wait and see. I've not got my hopes up. So anyway, with that, I bid you adieu. Adios.